with all these courses, and in this course you're going to see left, right, right, left with this course as well. Now it's getting kind of fun. We have two humans in us, two spirits, two souls, the left side and the right side. They got to get along. They were put together for a reason. Developmentally and embryonically, they understand each other's roles very well. And they're different. We're going to talk about now the thoracic diaphragm. And now we're going to talk about the thoracic diaphragm because you have two of them. We got to split this diaphragm up into two conversations. Jonathan, I want you to understand what the role of the left diaphragm is. And I want you to understand what the role of the right diaphragm is. And you don't have a choice, my friend. It's not something you select. It's something you were given. You possess. You own. You have no choice to use it correctly. Otherwise, there will always be a what? Consequence. And so we're going to look at the left and the right diaphragm as two little spirits that are trying to work with each other without warfare going on. Twist, torque, tension, tightness, warfare going on, which strangulate and push and restrict things from happening with ribs, shoulders, and the neck. Oh my. Okay, so that's why this stuff here is exciting to me, because we're going to put these adjectives in front of them. Are you on the left side or the right side? And we'll do that in the entire manual. And I kind of went over the muscle kind of fast, didn't I? Because we're going to go over it very slow. But you can appreciate that we're trying to position muscle. And if you put an R-E in front of that, and remember the word reposition today, because our AIC chain needs to be repositioned every time you move your arm and swing, every time you heel strike, every time you lean over to one direction or reach for a can of soup in the grocery store, every time you put a belt on, every time you cross your hands. You know, Chad is a good example of that. If you all take your hands and just cross them in front of your chest wall, like I got mine, my left hand is on top of my right elbow. And that's how I stand. Because I want my palm of my right hand to keep these ribs down. And I want my fingers of my left hand to keep my elbow up. Because I know, Brianna, I am built differently. I have this infinite wisdom of just keeping the spirits at bay if I keep this rib cage down and this rib cage what? Sound. Does that make sense? I can't do this in my sleep, Brianna. I don't even know how to do this. It doesn't even exist in me. I don't know what that means. It would be something that I don't possess. I possess this thought. That's how I'm going to stand as I'm on my left leg, to keep my left anterior chain, whatever that thing is, in a position to be able to move my airflow without consequence. So hand position, arm position, shoulder position, sternocleidomastoid position, all these muscles. When we were in school, we got these scalenes driven into us, right? You got 3 of them, and the Annicus issue is bad. Your hand goes blue. But we never really thought about what really is happening is you're working muscle on thorax ribs that probably are, Chad, in a position that can't what? Move. And so no matter how many of those scalenes Doc can remove off your first rib to get circulation in your hand, Sonia, it isn't going to matter if you don't know how to position yourself. It really isn't going to matter. So in my humble opinion, it's going to give you more relief, but now you're in a dysfunctional state. You just made it easier for the neck to get away with murder. And you just made it easier for that person to lift better, Jonathan, with their back when they're having an ice cream cone, not when they're on the front line defensively on a football team. We have people walking around like they're carrying weight that they don't own. So that's the importance of the word position. And it's huge neurologically. And it's not ever going to go away because you're bipedal, which means you got to do this reciprocal stuff on both sides if you're ever going to maintain position correctly. So something as simple as understanding the importance of keeping your left abdominal muscles active on a Pilates program, Brianna, is incredulous important. You don't have to have a PRI background for that. There's a lot of activity out there that reflect on this. The Institute's just helping it put in front of a lot of faces, but it's been there for a long time. So taking that information and extrapolating what we need to do mechanically, theoretically, is what this manual is going to do for you. We're going to give you specific techniques to follow to maximize what's on that page. So the real goals are you maximizing your ability to shut down a left hip flexor? You're here in a course to learn that. Are you maximizing your ability to inhibit a left pec major? A left one. Because that's what this course is all about. We're going to show you some manual techniques to do that. Are you inhibiting that right lat? Can you shut it down? The right one. And do you know how to facilitate left QL activity, not right QL activity, quadratus lumborum, at the expense of working your abs, which reciprocally inhibit your paravertebrals? So that's what we're going to do with this next 2 days in terms of techniques. And if you get lost, come back to these pre-pages of the course to remind yourself, how is that entire manual flowing with respect to these concepts? The brachial chain comes up from the, if you just look at it from a schematic view, comes off your head, goes down through your thorax, a little misleading, but it's a chain that encompasses the front of your chest. And then you've got this anterior-interior chain that comes off the ribs themselves, if you want to look at that. I should probably let and warn you right now, I don't know what an I and an O is. Insertion and origin. Gail, I don't know what that means to me. I do know they're attachments. You have an attachment site for every muscle, correct? But as soon as you tell me it's an insertion site or an insertion attachment, I'll tell you how it can become an origin pretty quickly. Does that make sense? I have a real problem with these words because, unfortunately, we act like one lever of our body never moves. That's how we were taught. In fact, you go to the textbooks today, you're still going to see O's and I's, and it cracks me up. Really? No matter how big that tendon is or how small it is, you are meant to move without being on the floor. You did that as an infant. You also had to learn how to crawl and creep. I guarantee you were trying to find O's and I's at that point. Once you got upright, those O's had to be dropped off, and those I's had to be dropped off. Those are called primitive reflexes. You had to drop them off. We have patients walking around with O's and I's mentality, using primitive reflexes. They interfere with your ability to what? Breathe. So I'm making sure that you understand that this is not really an attachment. It's not really an O or an I. It's an attachment site. You have these ribs that are a site for what to attach to it. Abs, intercostals, and the diaphragm. And it comes up around your body, as you're going to see, and inserts into the front of your lower back. It's a back muscle. Maybe you had to write that down. My diaphragm is a back muscle. Okay? Guess what the number one leading problem for the insurance companies with Obamacare is? People who have what? Back pain. Okay? So let's remember, my diaphragm is a back muscle. Has to be. All that big stuff comes off around the ribs, goes one way. Down to what? The back. How about this one? Chad, my diaphragm